today I'm going to start working on the rear tube fenders to match the front. Now, when I made these parts, I wasn't yet planning on the tube fenders, but then I also realized on the front that I can make them partly structural and tie it all in and it would just look better. So anyway, first up, this body here, both vertically and horizontally, has a slight arc to it. So I'm going to take this piece and stick it in the tubing roller and make an arc that's similar to that, so that I can kind of just have a piece to play with and decide what I want to do there.
Hey guys, I shaved my face. I know, every time I get injured, I either cut my hair or shave my face. It makes me feel better for a couple days and then I regret it, but here we are. But we'll talk about my wrist more after I talk about the sponsor of this video, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm about to show you why you should download it and what's new to the game. Now, Raid Shadow Legends is a mobile RPG game that is also available for PC now. And basically, you have all these super cool champions that you can collect, upgrade, give different weapons, and battle with. The first thing that's going to jump out at you when you play this game is the graphics are insane. A lot of mobile games recently seem like they get you hooked and then they get you to a point where you have to buy the currency to really keep playing the game, but I don't feel like that in this game. In this game, I can find a battle, I can do it, and as long as you keep training your guys, you can keep going along the storyline, which I think is really cool. And now as you're beating the story mode, you're leveling up your characters, you're collecting new armor, and make sure you check out the new Battle Pass mode. This is going to give you crazy rewards every time you level up, and there's daily challenges and weekly challenges that are just going to give you progressively better rewards. So go ahead and download this game using our links in the description. And if you're a new player to this game, you'll receive 100,000 free silver and a new free champion, Hex Weaver. So you're gonna find your rewards right here for the next 30 days only. So get on it quick. About my wrist. Now, like I said, if you follow the second channel, you probably saw me flipping over the handlebars on a snowmobile, just coming to a dead stop after jumping it into a tree well. And then I think that's what happened. I got some x-rays. The doctor's still looking at them. I might need to get a few more to see if it's fractured. But right now, he thinks it's not fractured, so I should be fine. Just wear a brace for a couple weeks, and then we're gonna get Cinderella with the tracks in the mountains and do a video of that versus the snow bike. I know a lot of you guys are waiting for that one, so bear with me a couple weeks and we'll be good. I'll keep you guys updated on that, but for now, let's get back to building.
I got the old pieces chopped out, and right now I'm working on making this piece here that follows the arc of the body there. But this radius is much wider than anything we have for the tubing bender. This piece is bent on the widest radius we have for 1-inch tubing, and I even moved the tube about 3/4 of an inch 4 times during the bend to spread it out. But even that isn't quite wide enough of a radius. There's still about a 1/4 inch gap in the middle of that line there. I've got a chunk of tubing here and I'm gonna stick it in the tubing roller and see how tight of a radius I can make in that. In theory, I should be able to make a tight enough radius. So we're about to find out. And then that'll connect to this piece here. It'll just be much cleaner and simpler. The hardest thing with this Harbor Freight roller is that it likes to twist the tubing as it rolls it and make it a nice little helix. The way that I've found to compensate for that is to just clamp this little thing on the end of it as a sort of a handle. Doesn't really matter what the orientation of it is. And you can use the weld line in the tubing as an eyeball point to keep it straight.
work?
I think so. Won't really know till I cut this in half and see if it'll do both sides. Turned out halfway decently flat. Got a little bit of helix to it, but not bad for what I'm using it for.
The snow's melting, so we're back out at the scrap.
Because I'm making all these fenders out of so many different pieces and I need to put them together, I need more sleeve material, something that fits or is close to the internal diameter of 1-inch tubing. So I'm out here with the calipers, seeing if any of these frames are made out of such size, which so far they're not.
Shoot.
I found some more plumbing pipe. So as it turns out, what's known as 1/2-inch pipe is almost exactly the right size to go inside of 1-inch tubing. And this has a couple of stubs of stainless steel 1/2-inch pipe. So
fancy.
There's a couple little scraps, but I'm gonna go look around and see if I can find more.
We should have named our YouTube channel Grind Hard Recycling Company.
Yeah.
Would have made a little more sense.
Ah. Yeah, there's a lot more out here. And here's some that's not galvanized. My tubing roller radius plan didn't work out. Not because it can't, I just screwed it up and it was such a pain, I decided not to try that again. Also hard to replicate, so scrap that. And then I went with the one that I did on the bender with just a few extra movements, and that's this piece right here. What I ended up doing is just cutting out the whole fender liner because it wasn't really gonna do much anyway. And it was kind of in the way of this top part lining up back here. So I just trimmed it all out to fit right up against the tubing. And now it'll look really good when the body's off as well. That was one of the main reasons why I decided to ditch the previous setup.
So this is the time-consuming part, huh?
A little bit, yeah. I have to make these threaded bungs, and it's not that bad, but you know, I got to make a bunch of them, so time adds up. Last night I made a bunch of bungs, 4 threaded and 4 just pass through, and I've got 2 of them welded onto little scraps of tubing here and all polished up. So now where these go is right here, so that this whole back piece can come off. Coming together pretty good, I think. So obviously got these parts attached, and this bolt attachments part right there, you can see with the seam there where it comes apart. And here's the next one. Look at that. You can just barely see a seam. I'm really becoming obsessed with attaching things this way. It's just the cleanest looking, sturdiest way to attach stuff. Anyway, that goes right there. And the one end welds to the chassis and the other end welds to the fender, so the whole thing can still come off. That means that the rear bumper fender assembly is done. It's convenient timing because the mail just arrived. We got this big box from Go Power Sports, which is very large and very light, which can mean only one thing. A place to sit.
You fit in it.
I do.
Good.
Oh, this is so much more like comfortable than the other seats that we've used.
I went for a go-kart racing style seat this time.
It's much more comfortable, and it really hugs you a lot better than the ones in the Jeep and the Camaro.
Oh, there's even a little dent for your spine. That's great.
Yeah.
How does it fit?
Well, it's gonna need some trimming, but that's nice. It's comfy. Very comfy. Got some seat mount brackets going on. This one, I had to take it off to tack it. I couldn't get it to stick, partly because it was trying to melt the plastic of the seat. So now that it's tacked on there, I can bend it to align with the bolts on the chassis. So these bolt onto these suspension pivots here. Rather than make new brackets on the chassis, I just use the old ones and add more stuff onto them. We've been trying to get some super fancy new shocks for this build, but that didn't go through, so we're gonna go ahead and just build it with some of what we have, and then we'll order some used stuff and get it rolling and figure everything else out, and then maybe upgrade the shocks later. But these ones are from the RX-1 snowmobile, and I'm gonna go ahead and use these to figure out the rear shocks, and then we'll see what we can come up with for the front. They have close to the travel that we want, and they should be, plenty stiff and sturdy to handle what we're doing with them, because they came off of the front of a 600-pound snowmobile, so should be decent for the rear of a, give or take, 600-pound Jeep thing. After much thinking, came up with a plan for the rear shock mounts here. You can see I've got them both mounted. That's obviously only half of the mount, but it's quite sturdy because you can see I made the bracket go basically all the way to the top and bottom of this tube, so it's nice and reinforced there. And most of the force of the shock is just going almost straight up, so that's strong that way. And then on the back side of it, I'll also have I'll make another one of my little sleeve tubing bung threaded things. So I'll put one tube across to here, and then I'll leave that long until I figure out the rest of it, but I'm probably gonna just run another piece straight down to here to reinforce that, but also to add a mount point for the radiator and the back of the seat. So I'll try to figure the tubing at an angle that like supports the back of the seat as well as reinforcing this end of the shock mount. So I figured this one with it touching the bump stop here and left just a little bit of clearance on the fender so that if you hit a giant jump or whatever and it bottoms out, it'll still not touch the fender even once it squishes the bump stop a little bit. Or even if it does, it'll only just barely rub the fender there. So this one represents basically maximum up travel right here, and that one represents pretty much maximum down travel. So that's our flex in the rear, and that's just with these shocks. If we got shocks with like another inch of travel, we'd gain obviously more travel. So that's absolute maximum down travel there on this side, and maximum up travel would be almost touching the fender. So we have around 7.5 inches of travel, which leaves a lot of room for improvement, but is also still really good. That's as much as Sendy has in the rear, and that's always been, you know, really good suspension. Actually, that's a little bit more than Sendy has.
And a fan sent us these zip ties. They're perfect for stuff like this, so thanks for that.
They're super heavy duty. I used these zip ties to hold the shock compressed while I made the mounts there, and most zip ties won't handle that kind of load, but these do. And my favorite thing about them, they have a little release thingy so you can take them off and reuse them. When I made these uprights here, I spaced them very specifically to the size of this grill. I think that really finishes off the look.
Yeah, it'd be so sick.
So I'm gonna go grind some of these little things off the back and see if I can fit it with the radiator fan, because right there it was kind of shoved out of the way.
As always, the name of the game is Overkill.
We don't know any other way. That looks real nice.
Perfect. Here we are at full drop in the rear on its own shocks for the first time.
Yeah. Let's throw the springs in it and see how it sits at just 0. That's a pretty nice ride height.
I'd say so.
And of course that's 0 preload and no passenger. No driver, rather. There's not going to be any passengers.
It just looks cooler and cooler every day.
Yep. We got to tune this rear suspension so that it has a good bit of squat like Sendy does. I mean, which it's going to anyway with this much power. But like the ATV, I mean, if you guys remember when we drove it, like those utility quads are like really, really stiff suspension. They don't like squat a lot or, you know, jump very well. So this will be a bit different. It's gonna be awesome.